What's up guys, here at MKS Performance. We had a bit of an ongoing problem with the variable valve timing wheels with the Met machine, the Audi RX3. It's a 2011 model, CEPA engine code, and what we were getting was cold start rattles coming from the timing chain, the upper timing chain, only during cold starts. Once the engine was fully up to temperature, there was no rattles at all after any restart. And what we theorized was the oil is draining back from the variable valve timing wheels back to the sump, and obviously they become empty again until they're filled with oil pressure. So what we've done is we've not just replaced them. There's a couple of things. We've got the original ones here. We've taken apart, but there's been two new revisions that Volkswagen and Audi Group have released. The old ones, I believe, were a D and an E. In fact, no, it was a C and a D. And these are E and an F. So these are the old ones. So this is the old revision. So we're hoping, once we get the engine back in the car, we're hoping that'll be quieter. So I think we've found what's causing the rattle. So this is the exhaust side. This is the intake side. So I'll just walk you through it. So you have, I don't know what this is called, so I'm not going to pretend, but that is going to be, for argument's sake, we're going to bolt it. I think the bolt goes in that way, but so we're going to bolt it in that way. So that's hard connected to your camshaft, and then you have the housing here, which is then connected to your timing chain. So what that is allowing is a degree of movement. Bearing in mind this is your variable valve timing. Is a degree of movement. There's only one way these go in. So let me just orientate that. There is a degree of movement it allows. So when this is running, in fact, no, I've got that backwards. When the engine is running, the variable valve timing, from what I understand, is dormant. And it's only until you start to rev the engine where it then changes that angle of attack.
Excuse me.
So what it's actually allowing is a degree of movement here, 15 degrees or something like that. So you'll have pressure coming in through controlled via an oil control in the head, and these chambers of oil will then start to fill up, which starts to move it across. So obviously this is changing now the angle of attack of your camshaft. So it's allowing a degree of movement on the chain, as it were. So obviously this is hard bolted to the camshaft, and then the actual outer casing is hard bolted to the timing chain via the back plate here, and that will just sit on top of like that. Okay. So what I think is causing the cold start rattles, if I just push this out, bear in mind this is the intake. So you have it's like a non-return valve button. So that's purpose is to lock the cam out when it is reset back to its original position and its dormant position. That will lock out, so that the two turn together as one. And there's only as the oil pressure is then fed in through the variable valve timing wheel does that button start to move out, which allows your movement there. Now if you listen to this, that's quite solid. Okay, there's not much movement there. Now we've got the exhaust side here, and if we do the same again, so I think that is what's causing it. But I'm not entirely sure, it's just a guess. I have measured that. That was about 9.8 millimeters in ID, and this one over here, that was slightly smaller. So that's bigger for a reason. Has to be, but I think that's where the cold start rattles is coming from. And you have a spring as well, which assists this. It always keeps it in a position, a closed position, if you want to call it that. Another thing worth mentioning, guys, when you are pulling these apart, you take a photograph of the orientation of the casing, and then you have the wiper rings here. I've just pulled that off by mistake because my screwdriver appears to have a bit of magnetism to it. But these, you don't want to interchange from any other side from here. So obviously this one here goes here, that one there goes there. So these will wear to a degree in their own respective chambers. And it's also worth mentioning, when you do remove them, is you put a mark across them so you know that which end of the brass wiper ring is facing top, because as these wear, they'll wear to a bit of a taper, I would imagine. So you want to make sure that that taper is then reintroduced to here. These have done about 80,000 miles, so they don't last forever. And you can see, these are just aluminium. And what you can see is polished witness marks. And that marks is from the wiper rings. There is some marks on the actual core themselves. You see the various different polished parts of that core. So we've installed the new ones, so we'll touch back base once we know for sure that they're quiet on cold starts. I suspect maybe they've changed the design ever so slightly, and the fact that these are worn out. They're aluminium, that's steel, so alright, cheers.